Now let me explain another feature of the database structure for those who want to get into it. That's the generic events. So imagine that you have a list of events in Lectionary 1. Let's say Sukkot, first day of Sukkot, second day of Sukkot, and Shabbat of Sukkot. And the second lectionary that doesn't call the day, the first day of Sukkot, first day of Sukkot, but first day of Tabernacles. Now I want the data, the user to be able to understand that both of those festivals, even though they do not bear the same name, they are in fact related. So what you do is you create an intermediate table and you say both of them in fact are the same Sukkot day 1, even though one of them is called day 1 Tabernacles. And the second issue here is that you can have festivals that consist of several days. So I want people that want to know whether Leviticus is read on Sukkot to be able to look on all days of Sukkot at the same time. So the second invention we did was to say, okay, both of the first festivals belong to Sukkot day 1, and Sukkot has more than one day. There is a first day, a second day, and it goes up to day 8, of course. There's also a Shabbat. So there's a general category of Sukkot, and there are subcategories that allow me to link festivals from lectionaries now to either specifically day 1 or day 2 or the Shabbat. There is a second problem. That's you can have one lectionary with one date and the same event in a different lectionary with a different date. So, for example, innocent children can happen on December 27, or another lectionary calls it children murder, and let's happen it on December 28. I want the user to be able to still find whether the same reading or same passage is read on these two events, even though they are called differently and they are on different dates. So, in addition to the two first columns, the one that gives the identity to the festival, meaning innocent children, and the second one which counts the days for multi-day events, in this case it's only one day, so we set a third column that gives the possibility to define different dates. So we can even have a third lectionary that has yet third date. So all of them now point to innocent children, day 1, and they have 3 different dates as features, but the computer will know that all of them are the first day of innocent children. There's a third problem. You can have multiple events on the same day. So, for example, you can have Lectionary 1 with St. Peter in February, and with an eve of St. Peter and Paul in June, and St. Peter and Paul in June. So you have 2 saints linked to the same festival here, which consists of a day and a half. And in this other lectionary, you can have again the same event of St. Peter, called a little different, and a mixture of the same saint with a different saint. So what we did is we have St. Peter, one line for the one-day festival of St. Peter in February, and link both of them here. For St. Peter and St. Andrew in June, we create another line for St. Peter, not in February, but in June. For St. Andrew, we also have to do that. And the festival of St. Peter and Paul in June in the first lectionary is only linked to the first, not to St. Andrew. We create a St. Paul in June to deal with that. And then we also have to create the corresponding entities for the eve of that festival. So St. Peter, we call that day 0 because it's really just before that. And the same for St. Paul. So the solution for the generic events was to create an intermediate table between that permits multi links or relations between events of different lectionaries on 3 levels. There is the ID of the festival, the idea meaning being St. Peter, a saint, or Sukkot, or Epiphany, or whatever, to be able to link festivals that do not bear the same name. So the day ID serves the purpose that you can have a festival that has several days, and the date ID serves the purpose that you can have, like here, a festival that lasts for several days. That is all there is to know about the generic events.